Hello and welcome to the Reviews Brothers. Something I love about making these silly videos online in my spare time are you lot. It's great to read your comments and find out how rubbish I am. Actually, that's not true. Pretty much all of you are awesome, and the main reason I keep making these videos because you're all very kind. And I like hearing your opinions on games too. That's why when Dr. Stuart Knott got in touch with me to have a chat about video games, I was more than happy to oblige. So we arranged a date, fired up Zoom and had a chat. And here is that chat for your amusement. Remember, if you want to talk to me about any video games, just let me know. I'm sure we can sort something out. Anyway, how about I shut up, you press that subscribe button, and make sure you check out Dr. Stuart's stuff using the links in the description below.
And I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Stuart Knott. Hello, Stuart.
Nice to see you. How you doing?
I'm very well, very well. Thank you so much for getting in touch. Thank you for coming on. It's really good to speak to you. We'll let people quickly know how this came about.
I was watching your video. It was about Ninja Turtles, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you were looking to fill a few spots. So I was like, oh, you know what? I haven't spoke to anyone about gaming yet. I want to get into that a little bit if I can. So I'll just slide into your DMs. I think that's what they say these days.
Yeah, absolutely. And the rest is there. Before we talk about gaming though, why don't you give some people a bit of a background on yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Dr. Stuart Knott. I'm a horror author based in Bedfordshire in the UK. I'm also a big gamer and movie fan. I post pretty regular reviews to my website about games, retro games, modern games and stuff when I have the time to play them. I wrote about video games as part of my studies as well. It was the whole thing really. So it's always been a big thing of my life. So it's nice to actually get a chance to talk about it for a change.
Yeah, and your books. So I have been counting you out a bit. So you've got 17 books.
Ooh, there's a few. Yeah, there's. It depends how you want to count them. Yeah, because some of them are. There's like 5 ebooks and they're collected together sort of thing. So yeah. I tend to count just the collections, but the number goes up more when you actually count them completely individually. But there's about I think it's 6 physical, and then there's about 12 or 15 individually, because with time and life and everything, I've moved more towards doing short stories now, and occasionally they get printed in anthologies, or I'll just self-publish them. Or collect them together and publish them. So they're all up on Amazon. So
all the links will be in the description below. What's your recent one?
Most recently, I was in a collection called Curbside Curses, where I wrote. It was an anthology based on yard sales. So it's cursed items at a yard sale, and I wrote a piece about a cursed luchador mask for that. And then I think it was. On the 1st, I think it was the 1st of July, I released my second collection of horror stories, Whispers from the Black Volume 2, which is just a collection of it's quite extreme horror this time around. I kind of didn't hold back a bit, but the first story in that is called Shareware, and is about my memories of being a 90s gamer when you had all the shareware floppy disks and everything, and it's about basically a version of Doom, but it's better than Doom in the story. It's called Slayer, and kids play it and they love it, and they don't realize that actually it's compelling their parents to kill their whole families in brutal ways. So it's kind of my dig at video game violence and stuff in a way, but it brought back a lot of memories of playing PC games. I had a friend back then who was a PC gamer. I was home console, but he used to play a lot of Duke Nukem on.
That came to my mind. Yeah, I had to share Doom, Duke Nukem, and Quake.
Yeah, I was a Duke Nukem guy.
Yeah,
we didn't really play Doom at all when I was a kid. I don't think I ever even owned Doom. And then I got Quake 64 as a kid, and I got ribbed for it so badly. People used to take the piss out of me about having Quake 64, which I thought was really funny, because a few years later, Quake 2 came out and it was massive. But I never even now, it's been 30 years. My friends would be like, "Oh, I used to play Quake." I'm like, "Shut up!" All right. It was okay.
I genuinely still play Quake. So and I should probably tell on the channel. There's a new Doom video every couple of months.
I've watched your Doom mod videos. I do like watching a good Doom mod video. I'm slowly playing through them. I reviewed the first finished 2. The third one is scheduled for October. I've still got to play Doom. Was it 16 or 14? The new 16. That one. I've still got to play that, and then that's probably the last one. I played Doom 64 as well when it came out on Xbox, because I mainly play on Xbox because me and my friend play for achievements. Okay, so I'm really like on it. It's on Xbox. Yeah, I'll play it and get those achievements. It's really, really pissing me off that we don't get as many games on Xbox.
Yeah,
getting locked out of them.
Do you reckon you'll do Doom Eternal?
I thought about it, but I'm getting more and more conscious of the not having enough room, and I don't really like. If I can get it physical, I don't like to get it digital. Still kind of clinging on to the physical, and I bought the Doom Slayers collection physical, which is the first 3 and the remake. And I'm like, I think that's enough Doom. I think that's kind of covered me. But obviously the new one's coming out, and my friend he likes to get me games, so I wouldn't be surprised if I don't end up with at least the Dark Ages, if not both of them at some point. So.
And so, well, we're on the subject of gaming then. So, do you have a favourite game? Do you think?
I always say I never really have one favourite anything. It's always like 5 or 10 because it changes all the time. It's like I really like Resident Evil 2, which I first played on N64, and I really like Arkham City. Is a favourite of mine. And then if you're looking at like Mega Drive, I played all the Sonic games. I had Sonic 3 and Knuckles is a favourite on that system. But then modern times like Sonic Mania is a pretty good one. I these days I find I tend to kind of I'm playing games and then I finish them and I don't necessarily go back to them like I used to, because the backlog is so big that I'm like, oh yeah, I could play that game again, or I could play. I have this game that's gathering dust on the shelf. I need to play it. And then obviously I played a lot of Ocarina of Time as a kid as well. I was a big Ocarina of Time fan, and Banjo-Kazooie as well is a favourite of mine. Usually anything that's a colourful mascot platformer like Banjo or Sonic or anything like that.
We definitely would have been friends growing up. I'm telling you that. So yeah, that's pretty same as it. Were you a Nintendo kid then, or?
No, I was a Sega kid. So I started with the Master System 2. I think it was. I think I had Master System 2. Had that for quite a few years, till at least '93, I think.
Yeah.
And then we finally got Mega Drive. It was Mega Drive 1. And I picked up from a car boot sale the Master System converter base that went on top of it, so you could play Master System games on it. I think I picked that up for like £15. It's like £50 or something now.
Yeah.
I still have the same hardware out in the game room. And the early Nintendo I had for years was Game Boy, and then I switched to N64 instead of getting Dreamcast. Right. And in many ways, I probably should have got PlayStation 2, but I didn't regret it because N64 was good. But back then, if you wanted to play Nintendo, I had to go across town to my friend's house to play SNES.
Oh yeah.
We
were kind of when we were growing up, because my brother had the NES, I had the Master System, so I had that. But then I got the Super Nintendo. We never had a Mega Drive. I got a Mega Drive when I was, I think, 23, 24, when I got my first Mega Drive. But a lot of my friends had them. And we had quite a good group of friends where, like, we'd be like, okay, you get the Xbox, you get the PlayStation. Because I generally was the Nintendo guy, so I ended up getting, like, the GameCube, which, you know, and obviously we had the N64 and everything like that. But yeah, we pretty much were always Nintendo growing up. But
I got a little bit kind of on the back foot with it. Like, I was Sega the whole time, and then by the time it came time to pick between PlayStation, Dreamcast, and N64, nobody in my circle was talking PlayStation then. It was quite an unknown factor. Yeah. So my friends they were getting N64 first. So I was like, okay, I'll get that. I don't want to miss out, and I want to play Mario 64. And then they had the money to get PlayStation as well. Nobody had a Dreamcast. It was like PlayStation. They had PlayStation and N64. And then I stuck with Nintendo for the GameCube when I probably should have switched to PS2 then. So when PS3 came out, I switched to that because everyone was talking about how great PS2 was. And at the time, it was backwards compatible with PS1 and 2. So I got that and this huge pile of games. And as soon as I bought that, everyone was playing Xbox 360, which I thought was really funny because nobody was talking Xbox at the time. Nobody was playing the original Xbox in my circle. So...
But now I suppose we should probably start talking about the game that you're here to talk about, which is Sonic the Hedgehog on the Sega Mega Drive. Or Genesis, if you're that way inclined, I suppose.
So if you had Nintendo growing up, when did you first play Sonic?
Do you know what? The sad thing is, I actually remember the very first time I played Sonic the Hedgehog. Very randomly, it was in a Boots shop, which for those that maybe overseas or don't know, Boots is basically a chemist that sells makeup and nice meal deals and random stuff like sun cream. I guess a chemist is its main thing, isn't it? So you can get medicine from there. But this was in Winchester, where I grew up, and I remember they were selling Mega Drives. They had Mega Drives. I don't remember if they had other stuff. I really don't remember. But they had a Mega Drive set up with Sonic the Hedgehog on it, and I remember playing it in the shop while my mum was going around Boots. So it must have been when was it released? 90.
It was 91. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in a Boots. That's so random.
Yeah.
That's really weird.
I mean, there is a chance that I've got the whole Mandela thing, and I've got a false memory, but it's really ingrained in my head, that memory, and I remember standing in the aisle playing it. So I'm certain that's when I first played it.
Interesting. I kind of did it backwards. So I first played Sonic on Master System, and that's all we had: Sonic 1 and Sonic 2. I think possibly Sonic Chaos on Master System for a couple of years, and then when we got the Mega Drive, 92, 93, it came with Sonic 2. And I had that, and I didn't play Sonic until after that. So I probably didn't play the original Sonic until maybe 93 or 94. So it was a little bit later. It was a bit backwards. So because of that, I have a bit of a soft spot for 8-bit Sonic on Master System Game Gear. I quite enjoy that game. But yeah, the original. So because of that, it's always been a bit odd going back to Sonic 1 when Sonic 2 improves everything about the game. So it's always quite jarring to go back to 1 and be like, oh, there is no spin dash. And I think in my version, if you hit, there's no invincibility frames. So it's if you've got a shield and you hit spikes, you go lose your shield, lose your rings, lose a life. It's bounce and die.
Yeah.
I think that's in my version. But yeah, because I remember vividly playing the original Sonic on Master System and being annoyed that the level select code didn't work for that game. There was no level select on Master System.
Is it up, down, right, up? You have to do up, down, left, right constantly.
Up, down, left, right, A and start together on the title screen, and you get level select pops up. Nice. I miss stuff like that in games. You need more things like that. I mean, if it disables achievements, that's fine, but I miss push button codes and stuff.
Yeah, they were good. I actually similar to you because I never had a Mega Drive until much later. So I had the Master System Sonic 1 as well, and I really think that I do actually prefer it to the Mega Drive one. I think, which it probably is the nostalgia goggles on there.
Yeah, it's got a lot more. I mean, I like that it's similar but different. It's got really great soundtrack when you get to Scrap Brain and Skybase Zone, and those zones are very different. Skybase isn't in Mega Drive. I think it's interesting they did that. They took it too far in the sequel. Like Sonic 2 on Master System is I hate that game. It's terrible. But the first one, I could never figure that. Like there was a cheat code for that on Master System involving the second control panel, but I don't think I can use. I don't think I can do it using the Master System converter base. I think there's not a way of doing it. I'm all about the cheat codes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do enjoy going back to Sonic 1, and I like that it's been re-released in ways where it's improved, but it's not really that different. Like you can play as Tails now, and Knuckles and Amy, and the spin dash is in it, and it's usually got save states and stuff like that make the game a little bit more accessible. And some of the finicky bits, like sometimes Sonic won't turn to a ball when he jumps, which looks a bit odd, and there's some odd collision detection, but it's one of those things that never really bothered me as a kid. And even now you see a lot of games like I can't stand Sonic 06, and I don't like that game, and I'm not a big fan of Sonic 4, but you always see people showing screenshots of Sonic like standing upside down on a loop, and standing in space. And I'm like, well, when you're playing the game, you don't play like that. You hold right and you go. The only reason you know the physics are broken is because you've decided to stop and test that. There are other things to criticize about these games. And but I think Sonic 1, it was a really strong blueprint for what followed. It was a lot of fun.
It was, and it was hard to not get sucked up into the hype, because I do remember all the adverts and stuff for it, and he was a very different character from your Marios, because he was, the 90s tood, as they like to. Yeah. Where he was very, wagging his finger and being.
I always like to say, there was a boom period in '92. They really pushed for it with Sonic 2, and he literally was everywhere. And it was a big thing for me as a kid. Like, we watched some of the Mario cartoons, and I was vaguely aware of the Mario comic. There was a Valiant Comics used to publish Mario comics, but Sonic was so much bigger with that stuff. Like, the cartoon was on like every Sunday on Channel 4, and people watched it. Yeah, and the games were everywhere because you had the benefit of the Master System and the Mega Drive. And the comic, Sonic the comic, came out in, I want to say that started in '92 as well. And back then, we were all collecting like comics like Beano and Dandy and everything. And one magazine I got came with like a 4-page teaser for Sonic the comic. And it was 99p when it first came out, and we couldn't really afford to buy it every 2 weeks. But I was just like, no, I need to get this. This is great. And it had Sonic in, it had Shinobi and Golden Axe. That was really good. So like, you were there. It was happening. It was in your face, and you couldn't get past it. And I remember one of the main reason I even convinced my parents to get a Mega Drive was just completely based on a review of Sonic 2 in a gaming magazine. I think it was just called Mega. And it was just a 2-page spread of the game, and I was like, "This looks amazing! We need to get this. I have to get this. It's so good. It's so much better than what we have." And that was a big deal for them to actually pick it up. And then, it was great.
Yeah, it's because I'm not actually very familiar with Sonic 2 at all. I think Sonic 1 is the only one I've actually completed. I haven't really played 2 or 3, which I should do. My friend had Sonic and Knuckles. So I remember kids, but other than that, I'm not massively. I've played them all because I always buy the collections. I've got the Sonic collection on the GameCube and the Xbox, and I've bought all the compilations on. I've got on like PS4, like the Sega Mega Collection or whatever that's called. And I always fully intend to go through every game in the collection, but then, like you said earlier, like the backlog gets bigger and bigger,
it's
and you
real.
can't go.
It's real. I was on the fence about Sonic Origins because I heard it was pretty bare bones. Yeah. But I was like, it's Sonic, I have to get it, and there's new achievements in it. I have to pick it up. And I think I was bought it on sale, but then they released the Plus version. Physical version came out, so I bought that. And I enjoyed playing through Sonic 1 again in that. It is a bit jarring because it's got the 3-act structure for each zone, which I think can drag a bit when you get to zone 3, because you have to play through you still have to play through a zone before you even get to the boss. Whereas on Master System, it's literally just a bit of an obstacle course, but it's just a boss, and that can get a bit. I've never liked the special stages in the first Sonic. They've always been a pain in the ass. But I think the level design and the visual appeal made up for all of that. There's people don't like Labyrinth Zone. I can understand that. I was never a fan of Marble Zone, but I think they're all right. You can kind of get past them a bit to focus on the positives of Spring Yard and Starlight. That was always a favourite of mine as well.
Yeah, that's because I did actually play it again today. Early today, just off. I better refresh my memory a bit. And I did kind of think I do forget how much they do look great. The games and the backgrounds especially are very good. Everything's so nice and bright, and there's stuff going on. Yeah, and it is like you said, the Labyrinth Zone is the one that everyone always whinges about, because you've got a Green Hill Zone, which is a really good start. I've got to say, they must be some of the best starting levels for probably any game, really. They really do a good job of teaching you the mechanics without a bloody tutorial like every model has.
And that was where all the effort went. And you see that in like the development and everything of it, that it was like strong start, it has to be this. And it is true that it starts really strong and it does dip. And Sonic 1 is much more of a platformer than it is like a race and smash 'em up sort of thing, even Sonic 2.
It's not a go fast game, is it? It's stages, yes, but after that it's like it's just a platform game.
Yeah, I do think in a way they maybe would have been better to kind of balance it a bit more. You could have had like fast with Green Hill, slow with Marble, fast again with Spring Yard, and then slow again with Labyrinth, fast again with Starlight, and then slow down for Scrap Brain. Might have been a slightly better order, but I think it works as it is, and there are opportunities to build up that speed. But I do think the break in the action for those slower moments is purely there to show off like the Mega Drive. It's there to show off the power, because you have to remember when the Mega Drive first came out, it was competing with the NES, not the SNES. And it's like well, there's obviously no competition visually between the two. And you can tell Sega is just flexing their muscles and they put everything they possibly have into that game to make it look like you must buy this system, it has to be this system, this is the be all end all.
I never thought of that. That's a really good point. I never thought of that, because you have got like there's some really good rotation effects like on the bonus stage. It's not the smoothest, but it looks great compared to anything the NES can do. Even things like you got the spike balls that spin around platforms and things like that.
Yeah.
You got the water effects look good enough as well. with the waving when you're underwater. Yeah, and
it's got that. It's got the water comes up in Labyrinth as well, chases up, like drains and everything. It's got performance issues because there's a lot happening on the screen, and it's early Mega Drive. But back then, Mega Drive was all about trying to do arcade quality in the home and everything, which I always found it interesting that we never really had a home console. I guess the closest was like a Neo Geo which actually was like an arcade machine in the home. And I was like, I always wondered why that was, and I assume it must have been cost.
Yeah, they were. It's like hundreds of pounds per game, weren't they, on the Neo?
Yeah, because I did enjoy a bit of. I only really played Metal Slug on Neo Geo, but that was worthwhile playing. But yeah, with Sonic, it was always just basically beating you over the head with this superior like 16-bit blast processing, if you will. Yeah.
Blast processing. And I do think as well the level design is genuinely very good, even though, because the complaint often is, it's really slow, which I'm very much guilty of myself, going like, it's not a fast thing. But then when I was playing it today, I was like, even though it's not fun, the actual platforming is really well done. And the levels have obviously had a hell of a lot of work put into them, because there's so many paths and ways you can go, and they're as vertical as they are horizontal sort of thing. You can go all over the place. And even though I do prefer Mario, like those levels are very much, at this time, you go from left to right, and that's about it sort of thing.
Yeah. I found that with Sonic, it's usually the higher path is the fastest but the most dangerous.
Yeah.
The middle path is, meandering, and the lower path is the safest but the slowest. And it does ring true. I've never taken different paths in Marble Zone, but I think there is a path in Marble Zone where you can skip parts of it or speed parts of it up. Obviously not when you're like, stuck on a moving platform, but there's quite a few shields. We used to call them bubbles. Quite a few shields in that zone, so you can kind of tank damage through it if you haven't got the glitch on. And like invincibilities will kind of run across the lava to kind of circumnavigate that. You're a bit stuck in Labyrinth, but I think that's kind of zones like that is where it switches from horizontal to vertical, and it's all about just testing how you can jump and your skills and everything. And it's funny that, because whenever I've played Mario, I always find Mario really slippery and hard to control compared to Sonic. And
more momentum, I think, like in terms of stopping, and he skids a lot more.
Even in like 3D games, and I've sat there and thought, I wonder if it's Joy-Con drift. I was like, I don't think it is. I'll just be standing there, and you'll just be like, I'm just going to walk off a platform. I'm like, Sonic wouldn't do that. but he has done in plenty of other games. That's why I like games where when you get close to a platform, characters will drop down and grab the edge.
That's
That's a lifesaver for me. I was like, I need that mechanic. If that mechanic isn't in the game, I will struggle because my
Yeah.
characters just love to just walk off platforms for some reason.
Yeah. And then, of course, at the end of every couple of levels, you got the big boss, which is
Yeah,
Robotnik, as he was known back then, and many of us
That was-
probably still call him Robotnik.
it was hard to transition to
Yeah.
Eggman, and gaming's weird like that. It's like when from Westerners' perspective, Final Fantasy jumped from 3 to 7,
Yeah.
and it's like, where'd the other games come from? And it was weird, and I'm used to it now. I usually will call him Eggman. I think I prefer Robotnik though as a name. I think Eggman is a bit weird.
I think they have. I'm sure I may have got this wrong, but I'm sure in like Sonic Adventure, when they first started really calling him Eggman,
Yeah,
I'm sure it is kind of said somewhere that he is called Robotnik, but they call him Eggman to sort of take the piss.
they did put a little dub in to do that. And Sonic Adventure 2 kind of carried it a bit. It's not nowadays. It's just all Eggman. I think they've distanced from it quite. That's why I was surprised in the movie that they went back. It was very like it was like a quantum leap backwards in a way in the movie because it was like turning the clock all the way back to the 90s to Robotnik, and I was like, I get it, but it is a bit odd that you'd make that decision to do that when arguably more people are used to calling him Eggman now.
Yeah, that's right.
But his fights were always fun. The Wrecking Ball comes up all the time. The Green Hill. That's a fun one. What was the I quite like Marble Zone where he's flying around with this little dropping fireballs on you. That's a good one. Labyrinth isn't very good. It's just kind of it's very hair raising though.
I always remember that one being the most difficult one for me, where you just got to chase him and not drown and not get hit by spikes.
Yeah, it's the spikes that'll get you there. That's why I love the rewind feature in modern games. It's a lifesaver. I don't know how we ever played any games without that. It's the only way I've been able to beat like all the Castlevanias and the early Mega Mans. It's like, I don't even care. I'm gonna, I haven't got time to get good at a game now. Just rewind it.
That's like exactly it, though, isn't it? For me, it is time, and playing as many games as I do, I don't. Yeah, it's just I want to get through it, and I'm not a completionist. I'm not fussed about 100% in games. I do like to get the trophies and achievements, but I won't go out.
I'll give it a fair shot. If it's not going to happen, like Sonic 1. I don't think I only try to get all the Chaos Emeralds in games where there's save states and rewinds. If there aren't, I'm not too fussed because there's no real reward. Like there's the proper ending with the big flowers and everything, but you can just see that online. And Sonic 2 is even you get Super Sonic, but there's not really a better ending. It's just a slightly different sprite and stuff. And the only time I was motivated to get them all was in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, because I had the Sonic the comic and it said about unlocking Doomsday Zone and stuff, and that's when I was really like, oh my god, I absolutely have to do this. And luckily for me, Sonic 3 has the easiest special stages, so it was nice and simple to do.
Are they the ones that are half pipe ones, or is that? Oh no, they're the ones with the balls, and you got to turn them.
Blue spheres. And with because even back then that game used save files, so you could just load up Angel Island, jump in the first ring, get a Chaos Emerald, finish the zone, and then just keep looping like that. You and Sonic 2, apparently there's a way, I've never done it, there's enough special star posts, I think in Act 1 of Emerald Hill, but possibly in Act 1 and 2, to get all Chaos Emeralds by the end of the first zone, but I've never done that. But Sonic 1, it really makes you like fight for it by holding on to 50 rings and get it to the end of the zone, only to instantly fail in their second special stage.
They're a pain in the ass. And I remember them because the Master System one, they're just sort of there, aren't they? They're just
I really liked that they were hidden, and some of them were. I think I remember where. Oh, at least two. Yeah, two of them are. There's only 6 to be fair, and you only need to get 5, I think.
Oh, really?
One of them, Bridge Zone, you have to stand on a collapsing bridge and let it drop down, and you have to make this awkward jump. Jungle Zone, you have to run across it.
The jungles. Those are the 2 I remember. Yeah, the bridge and the jungle. Yeah, and the jungle had awesome music as well.
Jungle was great. I loved the music there. The hardest one in that game was Labyrinth Zone, because you have to get an invincibility monitor and you have to run over some spikes, and it's hidden over there. And then Scrap Brain, maybe that's harder. You have to go through like a teleporter maze. I loved that. I thought that was really because it still had special stages. It still had like a bonus stage in it, so they could have easily just put them in there, but they hid them in the zones, which I thought was really fun. I'd still rather try to find all of them than play Sonic Mega Drive special stages, because they're really tough. They're a lot harder. I mean, the half pipes aren't exactly easy either, especially without rewinds and stuff. If you play them blind, you haven't got a clue what you're gonna do. It's quite brutal. So they really make you work for it.
I think one of the tips I've heard for the Sonic 2, possibly 3 as well, is you turn off Tails, because he can walk in, so he can get hit and fuck it all up for you, basically.
Yeah, he can be a bastard. Like he'll jump into bombs. He'll activate switches before you can. Like if he jumps ahead wrong in Mystic Cave, he'll lift a bridge and make you fall down into that bottomless pit where there's no escape from. He was a pain in the ass, but I like Tails. I think he's a lot of fun. But I usually like to play with him on, because you can usually just go fast enough to avoid him. So I do like it when he's put back into Sonic 1, and they tweak the game a little bit. And Sonic Origins was really good with that, because it had these really cool anime opening and endings for each game. That was really fun. The early boss in Sonic 1, Labyrinth Zone, wasn't too great. I didn't really like the final boss, which was just a bunch of crushers.
Yeah, and he's just at the end doing nothing.
Yeah, because all I ever used to do was stay far right, dodge the balls that came down, and if he was in the crushers closest to me, I'd hit him then. So it was just waiting in the corner for ages. That was always a bit of a lame duck. I always found it a bit odd that they finished in such an unspectacular way.
That's true. And it's a lot harder though, because that one you don't ever get any rings, I don't think, do you? I think that one is...
No, there's no rings for that. No rings in Sonic 2 either. You didn't get rings until Sonic 3, although you could still fight him in Sonic 3 without rings, because it was kind of a free phase boss battle, so you could go into it without any rings. But it was much more fun, because it wasn't just waiting around and hitting some crushers.
Yeah, but I have to say, I have actually always been a big fan of the ring mechanic. I do like the whole, as long as you got at least one ring, you're all right, because it gives you a fighting chance all the time.
Yeah, I loved it. It made the game a lot easier compared to the Master System one, because you can't collect the ring when you lose it in that game. You see it fly out, but you can't collect it. So they fly everywhere in Sonic 1. It's a great visual. The rings and the invincibility in Sonic 1 they're the best in the series for me. They toned them both down in the next few games, and I was like, no, you need to keep this going. It's great. And literally, it's like, it always annoys me when I lose all the rings, because I like to hold on to them all, even if I'm not getting Chaos Emeralds. But as long as you have one, I'm just like, just give me one. That's all I need, because it's just, and it's in a way kind of like, not really invincibility, but just kind of gives you like infinite chances. And then it's a good idea to have them, because then you get more points, and the more points you get, the more likely you get continues and extra lives, and you can just keep playing. Because that's one of the things I have with retro games as well. Like if I'm playing on real hardware, I kind of look at it and I'm like, okay, well, first of all, are there any cheats? Can I get something? Is there a cheat that will help me play through this game in an afternoon? If there isn't, are there at least infinite continues? And so many of these old games don't have infinite continues. We're still stuck in that arcade era.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, as long as I've got infinite continues, I could probably beat the game now. It'll just take a little bit longer. And Sonic does not have infinite continues, but you can earn them quite easily, and it's not too difficult, really. I don't think I don't remember ever game overing in Sonic 1. I think I beat it as a kid. I'm fairly certain I did.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, because I used to go to my friend Ed's house. He had it, and that's where I played it most of the time. And we would most of the time we'd be playing either Streets of Rage, Golden Axe, or Toe Jam and Earl 2. The ones that we kind of got, because we wanted to play the co-op stuff, so we didn't.
Yeah.
And he only had Sonic 1, so I think if he had Sonic 2, we would have played that a hell of a lot, or 3, because that had
Sonic 1, it's one of those games where if you can play, two players can play it, but you have to do it like cavemen, where it's like, oh, I'll do Act 1 and you can do Act 2, and we'll take and flip a coin. And I'm like, oh, who plays like that? But it's like technically, yeah. I mean, that's a lot of games like Michael Jackson's Moonwalker on Mega Drive. Its 2-player mode is that, but you don't get to play until player 1 has died. So you could technically get like 4 stages in and then die, and then player 1 has to start from stage 1 as Red Michael and play through. And I'm like, that's really tedious. Like, what's the point of why even bother?
I was a bit surprised this one didn't even have, because like Mario and that, they got you do a level each. Well, same thing, that you die or I'm kind of surprised this didn't have that. But then again, I wouldn't really have added anything. I don't think, would it, if it had?
I mean, it's funny because this is back in the time when Sonic's identity was all over the place. Like he was, he was originally going to fight like a guy in a bee costume. He had this, this sultry Madonna girlfriend, and they threw all these ideas at the wall. And they were doing Sega Sonic Bros, like a puzzle game where there was like a red and a yellow recolor of Sonic. So they were sort of teasing siblings. Then Sega Sonic Arcade was not too far away from this, and that had Mighty and Ray in it. I just think at this point with Sonic 1, they probably just didn't have the, it's probably even that was too much. Like, they're already cramming so much into it that it probably would have been a bit too much to put another character. I don't remember there ever being any talk of there being a second character in the game, but I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't at least talk about it, because I know the big driving thing was they said, so many people play Mushroom Kingdom, like World 1-1 or Mario, and speed run it, and they wanted to, make a level that was even faster and that you could blast through, and that's how you get Green Hill. And I do think that's true. I do like Green Hill, despite how much it's been, redone. But it is you do blast through it pretty quick, that you don't really get to see much of it, which is why I don't mind so much when it slows down and you get to see the lava plumes coming up and the bubbles bubbling and all the weird neon stuff and starlight. I think people kind of it's just so jarring to go from like, wow, this is really fun and fast, to wow, I'm standing around doing nothing in Marble Garden. But you watch speedrunners play the game, I'm sure they've found some way of like blasting or glitching through it in the blink of an eye, and I'm just like, A, B. There's only one button.
What does C do? Oh, it jumps.
It jumps.
Awesome. Well, we should probably start to wrap this up.
Sure.
That's all right with you?
Yeah.
So, this isn't a review. It was just a chat about Sonic and some of your memories and stuff. But if you were to, let's not say put a score on it, but if someone knew, they were like, should I play Sonic? What would you say? Do you think?
This is where you put me on the spot. I should have checked the review I've written on the game. I think I did give it a 3 out of 5, which for me is pretty good. Could be better. I think Sonic 2 I gave, I want to say 4, and then 3 and Knuckles is a 5 out of 5. I think 1, it's got the nostalgia. I try and I do feel nostalgic playing it, but if you're going to pick between 1 and 2, you play 2. And I do think it's important for gamers to play Sonic, because it's kind of the genesis, if you will, of so much. And it's like, well, they make such a big deal out of the game, and so many of the other games call back to it, that it is there. And it's like, you've got to play Sonic 1. It's like, you wouldn't discourage people from playing Super Mario Brothers, even though Super Mario Brothers 3 is arguably better, or Mario World is arguably better. I would say you should play it, but if only for the fact that it's quite it's a classic, and it was really good. But it is, we're never going to have a time like that anymore. The gaming isn't like it was then. And I do really, every time I play it, I'm just, still got the same machine, still got the same cartridge. It just straight back to where I was. I'm like, this is a simpler time.
It is. You do regress quite quickly with these when you play these old games. So it's it's great though. I love it. I would recommend. I'd say to people, give it a go. There's no reason not to. It's so easy to find.
I mean, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It's usually quite cheap. I think it's free on mobile. It used to be anyway. I think or it was only like what $1.99 or something. Yeah, it's dirt cheap. If you're a retro collector like I am, you can't move for copies of it. I think it's what 20, maybe £25, brand new in box with instructions. It's if that, probably even less. I mean, people give them away with most of the time. It's everywhere. It's there's no real excuse really not to play it, and it is a good game. And you can other games are better, but they don't always have the same kind of appeal in a way. Sonic has a great visual identity, and there's really great music and great visuals. So for considering when it came out, if you look at the Altered Beast, it doesn't look very good.
No,
on Mega Drive. Doesn't play very well.
It's held up as fondly as I remember it. I played it again semi-recently and went, oh, it's not that good.
Yeah, just little kick.
Pathetic little toe pump. That's bad. Well, there we go. Well, we'll wrap it up there. But yeah, I just want to say thanks so much for coming on. I'm really glad you got in touch.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been good.
Hopefully it won't be the last time. There's plenty of other games we can talk about, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Loads.
So, do you want to remind everyone where they can find you, where they can follow you?
So I'm still on Instagram at the moment at dr.kauthor. I'm on Threads at Dr. SK Spawner. That's where I'll post gaming-related stuff. And then I have my website, which is drkwaitingroom.com, where I post my own sort of text reviews, so it involves reading. So haven't quite managed to make I don't know how you manage it. There's so much huge competition. I was like, no, I wouldn't be able to manage it. But yeah, I'm about.
Nice. And there'll be links to everything in the description below. Make sure you check them out.
All right, thanks a lot.
Yeah, well, I better do my normal extra, and I will say thank you for joining us, and we will see you all next time.
Awesome.